So I woke up this morning to some brand new news regarding travel restrictions going on. Now, this is the way the elite work. They've got to cover their bases, right? They've got to cover their bases because they've already established that certain behaviors will cause spikes. So they have to almost make that happen. They almost have to make those spikes happen. And they know that we're in the summer season and there are vacation destinations such as Arkansas, California, and many other places where people go to the lakes and the beaches. And so now they're saying if you go there, when you return, it is mandatory self-quarantine for 14 days. At least that's the case here in Connecticut. You guys let me know if the mic is... I applied some filters to the mic to see if it would fix it. So that's why I'm kind of talking and opening the show with this introduction. And you guys can let me know how that's coming through. If it's too loud, I can turn it down a little bit. But basically, here in the state of Connecticut, they're threatening people with a $10,000 fine if they do not self-quarantine for 14 days. And of course, you have the citizen police, each other, that rat people out and basically will tell on you. So there's this fear of being told on and or losing the job you do have. And this is what we're dealing with right now. This is how they're going to squash the summer. And basically, this is what's going on. So what are we going to do? Well, we do what you can, You get out to the places where you can, and where you can't, you just don't, because they're not going to let you do it anyway. All right, so a couple of you chimed in. It looks like the sound is good. I took her out some of the background noise. I applied some filters through OBS. For those of you that use OBS, there's some really cool filters that you can apply that take all the background noise out. Namely, my stomach growling in the morning because I haven't eaten breakfast. Many of you probably heard that sound in the background. So, great. So we're all good there. We'll keep these settings. I wanted to open today's show with... This will be the last clip you see from the 2014 series called Utopia. This is the final clip I captured. It didn't fit into the other montages because I finished up the series yesterday. And I want you to listen to what this gentleman says. And this will answer all your questions regarding the second wave.
What's wrong, Michael? You don't need a pandemic for people to take the vaccine. You just need the fear of a pandemic.
So there you heard it. We don't need a spam-demic. We just need the fear of a spam-demic to take the VC. So, many of you asked me, will the second wave be real? And I think this answers it. They want it to seem real so that people will run to get the VCs. They're definitely going to ramp up the misinformation out there. They're going to ramp that up so that you believe that, oh, this time it is real. And I was talking to some of you about this, about how there was this component to the first wave where they did allow for dissent. They did allow for that in social media and so on and so forth. But I believe that they did that to further divide everything. And look what they did. Trump basically in the right co-opted the defiance of the orders, and we got labeled, all of us, whether we're Trump supporters or not, got labeled with that label of these are the people that are defying it. So, this is Trump's role. He's the bad guy. He's the one that bucks the orders, right? This is what they've depicted him as, so that we just basically acquired that label. We became the defiant, idiot Trump supporters who were defying the orders. And this is the dangers of the right-left paradigm. When you're in the right-left paradigm, labels get applied to you that do not apply. That label does not apply to me. I'm a free thinker. I don't just because Trump's not wearing a mask, that's not the reason why I'm not wearing a mask. And we've gone over all those reasons on this channel, but this is what we're faced with, you guys, as we go into the summer. This is how they're going to carry it through to the fall. And just expect that things are going to get ramped up. But in the end, I do believe that it still won't be real. I just can't imagine God selling us out like that. I just can't imagine that happening. And I don't think that it will happen. Now, we're going to move on to the meat of the show today. Now, this next scene that you're about to see was the ending of a movie that released on July 6th, 2001. So, we have an anniversary coming up of this movie, right? On July 6th, 2020, that will be 19 years. And this movie was called The Kiss of the Dragon. And it came out after a very peculiar, just one day after a very peculiar lunar eclipse. And let's take a look at this here. I want to show you the scene from Kiss of the Dragon, 2001, one day after a lunar eclipse. Watch, I'm not going to play the sound. So this is Jet Li, obviously, Chinese martial artist. Dodges the bullet, pulls a pin from that bracelet, and I might need to watch this film to see the significance of this bracelet and why he's pulling the bracelet out from his wrist. There's probably some symbolic significance, but follow me on this. Pulls the pin out. This becomes the kiss of the dragon. Now, this is all the way at the end of the film. Goes under his arm and inserts the pin in the back of his neck. Now, for all of you that have been following this channel, you understand what this means. We just covered this in the film Equals. We covered this in Warp Speed, the film where they put the contact tracing thing in her neck. We also saw this, where else did we see this? This neck thing, where they insert the VC into the neck. This becomes the kiss of the dragon. Now, as this plays out, the storyline behind this film is that that pin ends up killing him because it's an acupuncture needle. And it restricts blood flow from the brain, causing an aneurysm. Well, guess what happens when we're all wearing these masks? Hello? Do I even have to spell it out? Talking about oxygen and blood flow and all of this, right? So, here's where things get really, really creepy, because this eclipse that happened the day after this film released in 2001 would repeat 19 years later, which is now, in just a few days, on July 5th. That's called a 19-year metonic cycle. We've been looking very deep into these 19-year metonic cycles. Now, why is the movie special, and why are these pair of nearly identical eclipses of note? Why are they important? Well, here we are 19 years later with another needle looming on the horizon. The CVVC, the kiss of the dragon. Now, are you ready for this? Here's the film here. Had Bridget Fonda in it. As you can see, July 6th release date. I'm going to show you the lunar eclipse that happened. That happened on July 5th, the day before the release. Here it is here, July 5th. Oh, that's actually the 2021, sorry. Sorry, guys. 2001. Here it is here, July 5th, 2001, lunar eclipse. Here's the one that is going to happen 19 years later. It's a metonic cycle. We know that every 19 years, the moon appears in the exact same phase, in the exact same point in the sky, every 19 years. And an eclipse would be no different. Now, here's where things go off the rails. The guy that you just saw that had the needle inserted in his neck is a very interesting character. And I'll tell you why. This is the bad guy. His name is Checky Cario. I'm probably not spelling that right or pronouncing that right. But look at this. He was born on October 4th with 88 days left in the year. That would be the same date that the Joker film released in 2019. And remember the 10-4 on the clock, 10:04, to reach 88 miles an hour and Back to the Future? Guess how old he is? 66. What have we been talking about for the last 6 months? The number 66. And he was born in Istanbul, Turkey, just yards away from the Hagia Sophia Mosque that we just talked about last week. Now, if you're not getting chills, I don't know what to tell you. But this goes even further with this kiss of the dragon and these synchronicities. Not only did 2001 have a matching lunar eclipse to the year 2020, it also has and had a matching solar eclipse. So we had both the moon following a metonic cycle with an eclipse of 19 years and the sun following the similar 19-year cycle. In other words, these 2 years, 2001 and 2020, the sun and the moon both aligned in their 19-year metonic cycles. Now, I don't know how rare this is, but the solar eclipse date that they share for the solar eclipse is December 14th. Handy Sook. Now, we've been talking all about ice and fire. The summer eclipse in July, end of June, and the winter eclipses, December 14th, December 26th. Ice and fire. Now here is the December 14th, 2020 eclipse. This is coming up this year. And here's the December 14th, 2001 eclipse. Think about how rare this is, you guys. You can't make this up. Matching eclipses, 19 years apart, solar and lunar. Here's the one from 2001. That is a creepy eclipse. This one went very near Hawaii. Looks like Hawaii saw this eclipse. Looks like very close to Easter Island. And the December 14th, 2020 eclipse, that path goes through Easter Island as well, or near Easter Island, off the coast and through the center of South America. Now, that December 14th date, for those of you that have continued to follow all of this, is basically the date that something happened in here in Connecticut, Handy Sook, and it happened on the 11th year of this particular 19-year cycle. 11th, 19th. Look at that number. Spell it out in your brain. Write it down on a piece of paper. 11 of 19. Backwards is another number. So, with these psychopaths, there's always a beginning, an end, and a middle. And I believe this is what their law of threes is. They like to do a beginning, a middle, and an end. So, tomorrow, we're going to look at the cards of these psychopaths and where they all have masks. There are actually 2 or 3 of them. That'll be tomorrow's show. Will anything happen in 2020 like it did in 2001? God only knows that. I don't know the answer to that. Only God knows that. So, like I've told you, these people, Justinian and, Janus, these are all Apollo archetypes. These are the Apollyon god, the godhead, you could call it, the evil earthly godhead. And all these people worship the sun. This is what they do. This is why they do these events on eclipses. I think we just pretty much lined out pretty specific sets of eclipses that are pretty much undeniable, that seem to coincide with worldwide events. So, All right, so I'm in the chat here. Now, someone was upset that I didn't see their question. Look, I asked if you guys have questions, and I try to, let's do this. Maybe this will help, because a person was pretty upset, and I asked them if they would ask their question. I pinned the comment. Why don't we, if you have a question, put it in caps. That's fine to do if you're asking a question and you want me to see it, because otherwise the chat just flies by, and I really can't see what's going on. So that's what we'll do. Now, Monday, we're going to also do a recap on the Utopia montage that I put together a couple days ago. So we'll recap that on Monday, for those of you that are still interested in that series, which, of course, was basically right on the money when it came to predictive programming. Talking about a first and second wave, talking about clues that weren't real, and so on and so forth. Asteroid belt is coming, says Tina. I haven't really read up on that yet. Millennium bug. Paulie is the Antichrist. Yes, a bad dawn. You can spell it out. Thanks everyone for showing up this morning. The kiss of the dragons was definitely happening now. My godless ex-BF is obsessed with me. I kid you not. It says Proverbs. What, Casey, what is Astana NWO Tartia connection? I don't know much about that. Three Gorges Dam in China. What's going on with that? All right. I'm just trying to read here. Yeah, do not partake in the July 4th. Yeah, I would not. Absolutely not. You know, Independence Day, really. You know, they've dovetailed in all of this with pride and patriotism and all of that. And you are seen as unpatriotic if you don't follow their paradigm, right? And so that's how they've done it. That's how they've captured the hearts and minds of people to celebrate the holidays, to, you know, do all of this. Well, once you awaken to what the lies are, it becomes revolting to celebrate these holidays. It just becomes revolting. There's no other way for me to put it. Seeing how asleep people are, seeing them celebrate independence and freedom when there is none. How quickly people give up their rights out of fear. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. Okay, so the 400 million people lay in the path of the Three Gorges Dam in China. It's on the brink of collapse. Wow. They're like I'm sure there's some live feeds going on with that. We might have to tune into that after this is over if it truly is on the brink of collapse. Yeah, you know, we saw the hypocrisy. We saw the LBM, we're going to call them. They really wanted that to happen. So now they're saying that has nothing to do with any of these surges. And I don't believe it did. But what they're now saying is, oh, but then they didn't want Trump supporters to get together for the rally. I'm not saying that in defense of Trump. I'm just demonstrating to you the hypocrisy of it all. Okay. And that now these surges are happening, and it supposedly has absolutely nothing to do with LBM. So it's crazy. You guys, I feel like everyone's lost their mind. Like no one knows what truth is anymore. I'm talking about in the mainstream America, not people here. But people seem to have lost their way because they've been so dumbed down. And so that's where we're at. And at this point, we just have to watch it all devolve into what it's going to do. There are people telling on people. There are people afraid to just move about. People afraid not to wear a mask in fear of being told on. I'm sure that's coming down the pike. They're probably going to start finding people for not complying. That was the news, at least today, in Connecticut. And these politicians should be ashamed of themselves. Let's see. Amazing Paulie put up a great video. I had stopped kind of mentioning her because at this point, if you're still defending Trump, you just really, I mean, come on. The buck stops with the president. Always. Always has, always will. Why did we blame Obama for everything when he was messing up? Because the buck stops there. But I will say that she uploaded a great video talking about how all of this is tantamount to torture. And she systematically laid out all of the components of how what we're going through now is very comparable to that. Even one thing she did not include was the threat of being, jabbed. The threat of being jabbed. I mean, there are a significant portion of people that have a real aversion to that mentally. It's a mental health type of thing where people in their entire lives have not gone in to get jabbed because they have a fear of it. And no one's addressing that. They're just gonna make it sound like you have to do it. And so that would be a form of torture. And so basically, there's much, much more to it. I suppose you should probably check out that video. And she talks all about and compares it to basically the manual on torture. And she compares it, and it's almost dead on. Deprivation, sensory deprivation, isolation, all those things are what we're experiencing right now. This is Blind 11 all over again, just in a different form. The new fear is a new boogeyman. And basically, this is what's going on. And instead of, doing that to the people that they're saying, perpetrated that act, they're now doing it to us. So we're in isolation. We're in the room getting parts of our, you guys know what I'm saying. So what do we do? Well, all you can do is just keep praying. Pray that God, somehow reverses this. Pray that God allows you to stand your ground, that he instills in you the desire to make the right choices as all of this devolves, that you stick to your guns, that you don't somehow get tricked into doing something you don't want to do. That's what we should be doing right now. This is really a time to be praying. All of us need to be praying about what is happening to this world. The mental health toll is taking an effect now. You're starting to see young adults and children really just down in the dumps, depressed, cut off from their friends. School is not the same anymore. Everything's changed in their life, as if they didn't have enough to deal with in school. Now they're dealing with this. And now they're talking about just basically having remote learning being the normal thing. And we did a video on this, a live show. We talked all about how the rates of homeschooling were already going through the roof before all this happened. There were more and more parents homeschooling, and the way that school districts get paid is by attendance. So as the attendance levels begin to drop, the funding to these schools was drying up. So believe it or not, what we're going through right now is actually going to save their school system. Because why? Because it's going to basically take the place of homeschooling, but they still get paid for attendance. See how that works? See how you always, when you follow the money, you begin to find out what's going on. Now they're not going to come right out and tell you, oh, we're going to do homeschooling now instead, or we're going to offer the option of home. They're not forcing people yet, but they're like, hey, why homeschool? We'll take care of it for you. We'll be the instructor for homeschooling. And then they get paid full pop. They're not going to give you a break on your taxes because your child's not in school being managed by teachers and the air conditioning and the lights and the overhead. You're not going to get a break on your taxes, but they're still going to get full pop just for remote learning your children. How great is that? And a lot of parents will go for it. They'll be like, okay, fine. It's the same thing as homeschool. That's what they're going to say. Oh, there's no threat of any bad actors coming into the school and taking out kids. This is a good thing. This is what parents are going to justify this. And I don't have the time to homeschool, so I'll just leave my teenager at home and they can remote learn in the public school. See how this works? They saw that things were getting out of control, and these people, their main goal is to maintain control. That's what they have to do at all costs. Maintain control. So if a bunch of parents start homeschooling, we'll just find a way to hijack that. So this thing is multifaceted, what we're going through right now. There were many, many, many incentives and reasons for them to pull something like this off. Because there were so many ways that they could regain control. I just gave you one example of the schools. There are many, many, many more. There's a corporate incentive for all this to happen on the corporate level. These are companies that are not operating on a month-to-month budget. They have savings, they have this, they have assets, they've got all these things to shore them up, to weather through the storm. So this was kind of like a purge of small businesses. We all know it. I don't know why Trump isn't talking about the small businesses. Wouldn't this be at the top of your list, Mr. Trump, who said he would make America great again? Wouldn't you be talking about how small businesses have suffered and how there should be some mechanism to save them, not just a loan that they can't pay back? How about they don't have to pay their banks at all? Why isn't Trump going to the banks and saying there's a moratorium, no more loan payments until this is over for any small business? In fact, we're going to basically live in an America with no small businesses. Walmart's going to be your only option. Is that the America we want? And now they're going to hit the tourism industry. You guys have no idea. The tourism industry, the summer industry, is the unspoken part of the economy. This is tantamount. It's probably twice the size of the Christmas economy and the Halloween economy. But notice they never ever talk about the tourist industry as one of the bumps in the economy. Okay? They don't ever talk about that. They only talk about Christmas and Halloween, and what is there? One more? There's one more. These are the big holidays that bring us into the black instead of being in the red, right? And they keep telling us, pounding it in our head, without these holidays, the economy would be very bad. And they always gauge the economy by how much spending people are doing for Christmas. For all those of you that have been around a while, you know this. You know the pattern. Every year, this was a bad Christmas. No one's buying presents. Blah, blah, blah. Well, nobody talks about the tourism industry in the summertime, where people go during the summer. This is when most people are out. They're spending money. They're at lakes, streams, beaches, spending billions, probably trillions of dollars. And now they're talking about shutting that down. Literally. Now, I think Florida's doing okay. They opened back up. I follow a couple of fishing channels down in Florida. For those of you that live in Florida, please chime in. But down in Florida, apparently, they've opened back up the boating, fishing, that whole industry. So they're taking charters out, and I guess there's a lot of people down there doing charter fishing, catching swordfish and all this. So they're doing okay. That's probably because they made it. They made a deal. They shut down early. That you couldn't even drive down the highway. So there's these deals being cut behind the scenes. Just 2 months ago, you couldn't drive down the highway that goes down into Florida. It was barricaded off. So they took the bait, and maybe now they're being rewarded because they're one of the only places that have opened back up. Now I don't know how long that's going to be, but you get what I'm saying. That when you're threatening entire state and their businesses and the ability to operate, isn't there an incentive to maybe listen early to something and knowing that you're going to get a deal cut later to be the first one to open up and basically run the market? So we got to be on the lookout for this stuff. Now, what can we do? Like I said, there's not a lot. We can pray and stand your ground by what you believe in. And that's what I'm doing. So, all right, let's keep looking in the chat here. Okay, so I promised you guys I would answer some questions. Yeah, have enough food to last through the winter. That's a great advice, Dr. Savage. Thanks for bringing that up. Let not your flight take place in winter. Remember? It says this. I think it's in the book of Revelation. So, don't be afraid. There's no fear in this, okay? This is an information war. You gotta just, the only thing that's going to change this is enough people just waking up and understanding what's going on. Don't believe statistics and all this. That's all just manufactured gobbledygook to make you comply. Of course, I mean, if you haven't learned anything from the polls, right? Okay, people that support Trump, you're like, yeah, the polls were dead wrong. They kept saying Trump was going to lose. And look how wrong they were. Yeah, you're right. So why are we now believing the statistics now that they're putting out? See how it doesn't work both ways? When you're outside the right-left paradigm, you can see the forest from the trees, and you see how you're being deceived. I posted something interesting on the Facebook group, Florence Nightingale, and she had basically a health plan that she wrote. She had a lot of writings, this woman. Her anniversary of her birthday just came up, 200 years. The Economist had her name on the cover. This was all before this hit. This was in mid-2019. They actually announced 2020 as the year of the nurse, which it certainly has become. How did they know? Google was working with Ascension, a hospital group, one of the largest hospital groups in America, on a project called Project Nightingale. And they uploaded everyone's personal information to the cloud, their personal medical information. They're also using this algorithm, this artificial intelligence algorithm, to give the doctors feedback through their electronic medical record interface, telling them exactly how to prescribe medicine, diagnose issues based on whatever input and data that they were putting into the system. This is why when you go into the doctor, many times they'll just be sitting there staring into their computer and asking you questions. It's like an interrogation. And they're just typing, inputting all this data. That's because the more data you give the algorithm, supposedly the more accurate the diagnosis will be. So, this is what's been going on. All this Nightingale imagery. One of the first nurses. And Florence Nightingale was all about getting fresh air, clean water, social interaction, hope. This is what her writings were all about. Plenty of ventilation. And look at, everything is exactly the opposite of that. Isolation. There was one, who put that video out? Somebody here on YouTube put a video out showing how they were showing people how to basically hermetically seal themselves inside of their house and seal up all the cracks and the doorways with plastic. I got into an Uber car not too long ago, and the guy had a layer. I was like a bubble boy in the back seat with plastic between me and him, all stuffed into the corners. And, YouTube allows this. They allow this kind of stuff to be reported as news because it's an quote-unquote official news source. And so this is diametrically opposed to what Florence Nightingale even taught people. If you don't know about her standards on care and ways to improve your health, go onto the Facebook group, Enter the Stars, 5T4RZ is how you spell the last letters, and you'll see that post there. Now, I think we were able to recover the Facebook group. We came under fire. We had all these fact checkers descend on the site, and during that time when all this broke loose, there were a lot of people posting some stuff that was not correct information, or at least not accurate information. And I believe that they do this, not the people, but I believe that the powers that be release this information on purpose to do exactly that, to shut down communication, to shut down the dissemination of true information by muddying the waters with misinformation. So I had to go through, it took me like 3 or 4 days to go through and find all this fact-checked stuff. You can't just do a search and pull up fact-check stuff. You actually have to just find it manually. So I had to basically weed out all that, and I got us reinstated to at least have the posts go into everybody's news feed again. So I'm going to be taking special note and making sure that we don't post stuff that's at least not accurate. One thing that I can't seem to find documentation on are these children in masks that they said showed up in the Denver airport. Nowhere can I find the source of that. So I'm a little leery about allowing that to post on the page until someone can show me definitive proof that that was in the Denver airport. Then I won't allow that to post. That's why that one didn't make it through. But we just got to be careful, you guys. Got to be careful because they're setting all these traps for us. And look, if you think about it, that's exactly what's been happening here on YouTube. They've set all these traps, which have taken channels down. Someone asked me the other day, I think it was, can't remember who asked me, but they were like, how are you able to use all these clips? Well, there's a trick to it. I've tried to share that with channels before that are catching strikes for using clips. You got to follow the fair use guidelines. Now, YouTube doesn't come out and spell it out for you about what fair use is. The pic is fake, someone says. I think it might be, and so you got to be careful. I had like 6 people share that on the Facebook group. I think it might be fake. But anyway, back to this. I'm getting distracted here. I can't remember what I was talking about. So that's where everything sits. Oh, we're talking about channels and using clips. So basically, yeah, you just got to be very careful. You got to use only a certain amount of seconds. It's usually, for me, I stop my clips at about 9 seconds. And if you cannot have a clip longer than 9 seconds. Algorithms will pick it up and you'll get a copyright, or it'll at least get tagged or notified. Okay. And after a while, you'll get good at it when you're putting your montages together. You stop it at 9 seconds. And then what happens is, this is why you see me repeating segments of the montage. It's not because I'm trying to be annoying. And this is why I slow things down. It's all about the algorithms. Because if I don't do that, it'll get flagged and nobody will see the video. So just bear with me on that. When you see the way I edit something together, there's a very specific reason why I do it that way. All right. Facebook page is Enter the Stars. There's a group. I have a page and a group. You can find the group on the page. Enter the 5T4Z here. I'll spell it out for you guys. Enter the 5T4Z. That was the old spelling of my channel. I changed it just so it'll be easier for you guys. Visually, it says stars, but that got real confusing. So I changed it just to regular STARS so that people can find the channel. So, okay, I'm back in the chat. Yeah, exactly, right, Slayer? 9 seconds to hit. This is the world we live in now. It's crazy. You can actually go a little bit longer, like 9.40 seconds, but not much more than that. Oh, Corbett says public schools require VC in Colorado. Wow. Oh, here it comes. They're going to start with the schools. They're just going to say, oh, it's just another routine VC. You've accepted all the other VCs. This is why it was very important to make our stand with religious exemptions long time ago. And unfortunately, many states have done away with those religious exemptions. Guess what? Gottlieb, Trump's FDA appointment, he's no longer there. He stepped down. But this was like 2016, 2017. He was threatening the states, telling them, you need to do away with your religious exemptions. It was giving parents too much power to decline VCs. This is what he said. Trump appointed that guy. When he left, Trump said in a tweet that Gottlieb did a very great job. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about how Trump feels about VCs? I know in the beginning, he told everyone that it seemed like he was against it, but now he's for it. So, there you go. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, someone asked for my email address, caseybrown1973@gmail.com. But okay, so when you email me, just if you put a link and you don't say anything, I'm probably not going to click on the link because I just don't have time to read, 12 hours or watch 12 hours worth of video to find what you were talking about. Now, if you send me a link and you say at 7 minutes of this video, you got to really hear what this person said for 30 seconds, I'll do that. Also, I can't read like long paragraphs and paragraphs full of stuff. Please leave it to like 2 sentences. That way I can get through more of your emails and more of your comments. Really helps me. And the rest I leave up to God to guide me in the right direction of what I'm going to look at, what I'm going to focus on. All right. Corey says, Q was pushing JFK Jr. mask 6 months before CV came out. Huh. Didn't know that. So, I'm going to let you guys go now. Let's see how long we've been going today. I like to keep these shows under an hour. Seem to get shared. Oh, only 40 minutes. We'll be back on here tomorrow. We're going to look at some of these cards and delve into them, see if we can decode them. And I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow. Take care and be safe, everybody.